Let's talk about Gen Z. It's kind of wild when you think about it. They're the most connected generation in the history of the world. I mean, they literally grew up with all of human knowledge right there in their pocket. But here's the massive paradox, the thing that defines their entire experience. According to a major study by Cigna, they are also the loneliest generation. So, what's going on here? How can that be? Let's dive in and try to understand the root of this disconnect.
And you don't just have to take my word for it. This feeling is captured perfectly by a member of Gen Z himself. Ben Burrock put it this way: even with all the tools we have for connection, the social world online feels overwhelmingly empty. And look, this isn't just one guy's opinion. It's a feeling that's being echoed everywhere, and it's backed by some pretty startling data.
And the numbers, they really paint a clear picture of the symptoms. A survey of 14 to 24-year-olds found that heavy use of platforms like Instagram and Snapchat is directly linked to spikes in anxiety, depression, poor body image, and, yep, you guessed it, loneliness. And experts are really concerned that this isn't just some phase, not just teenage angst. It's something that could actually get in the way of them developing into healthy adults. So, what's causing all this?
Okay, so to really understand the problem, we need a proper diagnosis. It's not enough to just list off the symptoms, we have to get at the underlying causes. In this next part, we're going to explore the hidden psychological mechanisms that are somehow turning a tool meant for connection into a source of isolation.
It all kind of boils down to a simple question, one that really gets to the heart of the whole issue. Why are we all so obsessed with chasing likes? Seriously, what is it about that little heart icon that has so much power over us? Well, this slide right here pretty much explains everything. Social media has basically turned our self-worth into a numbers game. Take a look at this diagram of what's called the validation loop. First, you post some content. Then you enter the waiting game, which, let's be real, is just pure anxiety. You're constantly checking, counting the metrics, the likes, the shares, and then, based on those numbers, you either feel validated or you delete the post, seeing it as a total social rejection. So the key takeaway is this: our self-esteem has become a public metric. It's up for a vote.
Okay, this next mechanism is what some people call the imposter syndrome machine. As Ben Burrock points out so well, social media is just a highlight reel. Nobody's posting their failures, their bad days, their struggles. So when you're going through a tough time and you scroll through a feed filled with perfect vacations and amazing achievements, it does more than just make you feel bad. It makes you feel like you're the only one struggling. It makes you feel completely alone.
Now let's think about how friendships are actually built. In the real world, you have to take emotional risks. You got to be vulnerable. You have to get through awkward moments, and you have to figure out how to resolve conflict face-to-face. Online, though, you have this thing we can call a screen shield. It makes it so much easier to keep your guard up, way easier to just ghost someone instead of having a difficult conversation. And this is why something as simple as calling someone on the phone is now seen as too intense by a lot of teens. It totally bypasses that protective screen shield.
And here's the consequence of that. Building and keeping relationships is a skill. It's like a muscle. And what happens when you don't use a muscle? It gets weak, it atrophies. When we keep avoiding the messy, real-time work of failure and repair, apologizing, forgiving, trying to understand someone, those social muscles just start to fade away. The bonds we form online end up being super fragile because they've never actually been tested by real conflict. That screen shield we talked about? Well, it also has a much darker side: toxicity. The anonymity of the internet can just strip away our empathy. As Dr. Donna Wick says, kids text things to each other that they would never, ever dream of saying to someone's face. And this can turn what are supposed to be social spaces into what some experts have called a cesspool of isolation and cruelty.
And finally, there's this idea of the death of solitude. With location sharing and constant updates, teens are never truly alone. They never get a break from the social pressure, which just leads to total emotional burnout. And in this world where we're always connected, silence, like being left on red, isn't just quiet anymore. It's seen as a deliberate act, a strategic insult, a rejection.
So that's the diagnosis. And I know, it might seem a little bleak, but the good news is there's a prescription. So now we're going to shift from just understanding the problem to actually exploring the solutions. And you know what? The first line of defense, it starts at home with parents.
The very first step of the cure starts with a hard truth. Parents have to take a look at their own tech use. As Dr. Stina Adair warns, when a parent is constantly glancing at their phone, it creates these mini moments of disconnection. And over time, those moments send a really powerful message to a child. That device in my hand is more important than you are right now.
So the solution has to be practical, and that means creating sacred tech-free zones. As you can see here, the dinner table and the car are two of the most critical places for real, genuine conversation. Making these spaces screen-free, and that means for everyone, including parents, is how you start to reclaim that essential time for connection.
Experts also suggest a really clear protocol. First up, delay. Treat social media kind of like alcohol or driving. Just delay the age of first use for as long as you possibly can. Second, monitor. Go ahead and be their friend on the platforms, but don't spy on their private messages unless there is a very, very good reason. And that leads to the most important third step, trust. Spying just destroys the parent-child relationship. As one expert puts it, you have to feel like your parents think you're a good kid.
But the ultimate goal here, the real gold standard, is this: shifting a teen's source of self-esteem away from appearance, how they look online, and towards ability, what they can actually do offline. Getting them involved in sports or music or volunteering, really anything that builds real-world mastery. This creates an internal confidence, a kind of self-worth that 1,000 likes could never, ever replicate.
All right, we've walked through a lot: the symptoms, the diagnosis, and the prescription. Before we get to our final thought, let's just pull it all together and see how these pieces connect in one clear picture. This flowchart is a great roadmap of everything we just covered. The problem kicks off with symptoms like anxiety and loneliness. Those are driven by these deep psychological mechanisms, things like curated realities and that endless validation loop. But there is a path forward. The remedies start at home, with parents modeling good behavior, setting clear boundaries, and most importantly, focusing on building real confidence through offline mastery.
And we'll end on this simple but really powerful thought from Dr. Donna Wick. Everyone needs a respite. Technology is an incredible tool, for sure, but our biology, our humanness, it craves real face-to-face connection. So the question isn't just for Gen Z, it's for all of us. In our own lives, are we choosing the curated safety of the screen over the messy, difficult, but ultimately amazing work of real relationships?